We are here for the Current Services Advisory Board regular meeting agenda. Today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. I will call this meeting to order. First, we will do roll call.
Brian Young. Rick Moore. Joe Soner.
Kent Bridge.
Joe Bradford sitting in for Ms. Diana.
And Bridget Biffle. Notice of this meeting was properly posted on December 10th, 2025. We will start with approval of the minutes. Number one is discussion and possible action regarding the minutes from September 11th, 2025.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that will carry. And we have two, discussion and possible action regarding a statistical report from team.
Thompson. Here. Hello. We'll go ahead and just start with the first one, the quarterly report. We screened 1,648 individuals who were booked in, and 83 OR release recommendations were made. 262 conditional bond releases or recommendations were made, and we served 1,129 unique participants in that time period. Average participants per month that we served was 758. There were 1,212 court dates, 205 failures to appear, with a failure to appear rate of 17%. Anyone have any questions?
Do you ever calculate the amount of time? I know you have 758 participants, but you're getting more monthly, and so that's total, right?
Served in a month?
Yes. Or sorry, the total that you're supervising altogether.
Altogether, so during this time period, it was 1,129 participants. Now, some of those participants, they may have been out on a conditional bond and then picked up a revo charge later on. So we look for the unique count of participants.
Are you ever able to see, or do you have any ideas on the average amount of time that someone is going through the team program until their case is complete?
That's such a great question. And now that we merged all of our data into Salesforce in July, mid-July, and that is something that we can track in a lot easier and a more accurate of a way. I don't have that right this minute. My normal answer to that is sometimes it's a month, maybe even a week. Sometimes we have people who have been on the bond since 2022 actually.
Last question. The conditional release recommendations and the OR recommendations made the 262 and 83 out of 1,648. Are those the ones that actually got approved, or those are the ones you just recommended for release?
Those were recommended for release during that time period. We also get referrals for maybe people who have been in custody for a while, and the attorney knows a little bit more about what's going on in that case, and they agree with the DA, and the judge agrees to release them. So there's a different referral source from attorneys.
And so we have around, say, 1,200 individuals that were screened and recommendations weren't made. Is that mainly because of priors and failure to appear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would be super high, a higher PSA score, or a lot of objections from the DAs, or yes, just recent history, or they are currently on probation.
Anybody have any questions?
Are you talking about the GPS and all?
Yeah, I was going to move to that whenever you are ready. Yeah? Should I move on?
Yes.
Okay. I did compile a violations report just to ensure that everyone understands that we are doing violations when people are not complying. I did a deep dive. So since July, there were 412 violations, and there's a chart on that first page that talks about the nature of those violations. As you can see, the most violations were for new arrests, and I have a breakdown of that on another page that we'll go into. And then positive drug tests, then GPS, and then no contact. So if someone hasn't been in contact within 30 days, or other is usually a very specific on condition, like must be inpatient treatment if they leave, something to that nature. And in that other category, there's about 9 that it was before we were tracking the type of violation. That next page goes into the violations that resulted in failures to comply. And there's a chart at the bottom that shows you how the proportion of failures to comply to violations. As you can see, most violations the court doesn't determine are worthy of a failure to comply. And the most failures to comply come from the new arrests, which isn't shocking. The last page, I break down those new arrest types. I think this is really interesting. New TNP, those are just those arrests before the probable cause is filed. Those are the most 45, municipal 30, so that's the second highest new arrest. New felony is 19, new misdemeanor is 11, and interestingly, cost warrant is 10. And we only count a new arrest as a cost warrant if the only charge is a cost warrant and there isn't a new charge. So otherwise that would count as an actual new charge. UCBC 4, other 3, and active sub 1. And there's a chart at the bottom that shows you that. Any questions about that?
Anybody from the outside looking at these numbers would see total violations 412 and think this is horrendous, but say GPS 98, your GPS can go dead for minutes and you technically report a violation to the court, right?
Yes, and I anticipated a question about that. I looked at our number of participants served in that period of time, and it was around 1,400. 263 individuals were responsible for those 412 violations. It is not uncommon at all for someone to have a GPS and the battery to have gone dead for an hour 14 times, and there are 14 violations on that case, but there's not a repetition. Same with drug tests. There might be several drug test violations with no result, no failure to comply.
And so say you're drug testing someone weekly, that could be 4 violations in 1 month, but you recommend them for additional services, whether it be meetings, inpatient, all of those things from those violations and stuff.
Yes, this report does not include additional services recommended, which is the first step when someone has a positive drug test. So before any of these drug test violations happen, an additional services went in.
Do you have any other questions? I think we all really appreciate these numbers, and it's good to know how many violations and for what and everything. So we definitely appreciate the reports.
Yes.
Number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding a teen violation, the teen violation reports, and what arrests should be reported or excluded. I requested this just because on this report we look at that total of violations and we also look at new arrests. Stacy just said that they're filing violation reports for, say, cost warrants. I think that's a little misleading because they're reporting it as a new arrest. But if you are checking in, doing what you're supposed to do, but you haven't paid your court costs from 3 years ago, my feeling is that I wouldn't necessarily think that would need to be reported because they didn't go out and commit a new crime. So I kind of wanted to just talk about it here and see how everybody felt about that.
I feel like most municipal arrests are the same thing. Those are people who have to take. I mean, almost nobody gets arrested for a municipal arrest absent having a bunch of old court costs. And whenever I have clients who have municipal holds, it's never for a new case. It's always for owing the city of Oklahoma City $2,000 on an old ticket. And it might be difficult to break them into those two categories, but I feel like, and they're a significant percentage of the arrests because of the number of those city holds that are out there. But those people get OR'd out the next day routinely. And so I think those are just as often as, I don't know, misleading maybe as the cost one.
And Stacy, is there a way so the team could just report if someone's actually breaking a new law or committing a new crime if we vote on that here today?
Municipal,
Yes.
obviously otherwise, but yes,
Yeah.
we can absolutely do that.
I like the way it's broken out here, but to Ken's point, it could be, in my experience, it's usually open tickets. It's tickets that can be resolved with money, but then they just never came to it. But you're right. It's probably not a new offense, correct?
Well,
Usually,
yeah, and I answered that very quickly, but when I'm thinking back to it when I was preparing the report, I think I would have to look to see.
yeah, you'd have to track it down.
Yeah, we'd probably have to search it on the municipal site.
Yeah, and it may not be easy to do. And half the time when they get arrested, they don't even know why they got arrested. It seems like you talk, they go, "Oh no, that's small tickets," but
Yeah.
even differentiating between were they open tickets, never used to go to court. It's really half of it was FTA at municipal level, and half of it was failure to pay at municipal level.
Yeah, I didn't break it down in that report, but the duration of stay for those municipal arrests were typically 1 day.
Yeah.
Most of those violations were reported stating that they were no longer in custody. And most common were breaking and entering, trespassing, disorderly conduct. But I can break that down further. Just take this.
I think it'd be nice, but also I know it's quite a burden. I don't know how much time it would take you to do it. It seemed like it'd be quite a bit of. I think I also want to be mindful of your bandwidth and what we're asking you to do. But it's looking at 30 individual cases for people to figure out how feasible is that. How simple is that?
Well, and I think
Yeah, the interns over there that can play this stuff down.
Beginning January, I have a new one. And it's doable. I don't know that I could give you a date within the next 2 weeks that will be done.
What do you think about next time we have our meeting, this report on the feasibility of that, just what the effort it would take to do that? Because I agree with what you're saying here. That would be interesting to know, maybe perhaps helpful, maybe a better reflection of the arrests. But okay, there's also a lot of work. I know to ask you guys to keep putting that stuff together, and we would just look and go, okay,
I think it would also save them significant time. So when they're just saying violations, they're not just keeping track, they're actually typing up a report and going to the court. So if we even took out cost warrants or older municipal cases that maybe they have a warrant for cost or FTA, but they haven't committed a new crime, I think that might cut down significantly where they could keep track of the things that Judge Stoner's talking about. Would that help taking out those? Because it would be reports that you're not required to give the court to say, hey, this person got arrested for cost warrant.
Yeah, the administrative time that it takes for one of those violation reports is a while. Not a long time, but per report it could be 8 minutes, and then reviewing them to make sure all the case numbers are correct. And then when you see with the municipal, I think there were zero, I think, oh, it's not in here. There were 0 failures to comply because of the arrest. But I can break down those municipal arrests in a more detailed way for the next. Is that what you guys were asking?
Yeah, I think the concern is new arrests looks pretty alarming, but if you take out the cost warrants and municipal stuff, it's not a new offense, it's not quite alarming. You know, but then again, I think who's watching these numbers, we are. If anybody else is watching, they might be alarmed, but we understand what's going on.
I think I would like to make a motion that as far as team violation reports, I would make a motion that warrants for court cost and for municipal crimes that were previously committed, but not new crimes committed, that team would not have to do violation reports for those.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion will pass and carry. And then we have discussion and possible action regarding a report from the DA's office for the pretrial GPS monitoring.
Okay, so this fiscal year, I've just been counting from July. As of right now, I have 34 actively on lake. 32 of those are males and only 2 females. 11 active units in use and 23 passive units that are in use. I have approximately 18, I think they brought me 2 more this morning, people waiting to post their bond. Their bond has been reduced from a very high amount to something that they consider reasonable with the GPS based on the charges. I have 4 indigent participants, 30 self-pay, 2 medical OR participants. I only have 1 that he bonded out with team that is through me, and she needed extra services, but her charges didn't qualify for team to bond, have her out. So they kind of split the difference between both of us. I've had 4 people that were returned to custody for failure to comply. 1 failure to appear, 0 lost units. The average time on GPS is about 204 days. Last time I was in here, someone had asked me about how long the longest person was on it. 825 days and 755 days, but both of those are medical releases that were costing the jail too much money. They couldn't afford the surgeries. One of them has been in the hospital for 8 weeks now. And it's just, it would have bankrupt the jail on that one. Total fees collected since July 1st, $27,753.24.
Have we lost any units?
No.
They haven't cut them off and run away?
No, and one of the reasons that is so low is because the DA's office has investigators, and when one of my clients has a warrant, they go out and get them, take them to the jail, and they cut the unit off and bring it back to me. Previously, I didn't have that option, and so a lot of them, it would take a couple of days after they had the warrant before I'd have OCPD or somebody pick them up, and they find out about it and cut and run. In this instance, they don't have that chance really, because the minute that warrant is active, the guys on the investigative team are out the door and going to grab it. So we're really lucky with that.
For failure to comply, was that repeatedly letting it go dead, or was that
Mostly it was repeatedly got it to let it go dead, or they had specific conditions the judge had required and they just ignored it and didn't do it. I did not include my violation reports in here. On average, I'm doing maybe 2, possibly 3 a week, and it's majority of them are the battery.
Anybody have any more questions about that? Thank you so much for this report. Do we have any citizen participation? Any board comments? Any new business?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. We now come on to the Oklahoma County Treatment Court Advisory Board regular meeting. Today is December 11th, 2025. I will call this meeting to order. We will do roll call.
I'm on.
Rick Wong. Judge Stoney.
Jim Redford on behalf of Mr. Hannah.
And Bridget Biffle, notice of this meeting was properly posted on December 10th, 2025. First, we have discussion on possible action regarding the minutes from September 11th, 2025. Have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, number 2, discussion on possible action regarding the approval of a board to oversee the operation of treatment courts. I know that was requested by Ms. McKenna. She's currently at a conference. Do we want to
Yes,
put that on hold or table that to
table that, please.
the next meeting? Number 3, we have discussion and possible action regarding an update for the treatment courts regarding operations.
Go ahead then. Judy and Chris.
So we start off with Greens Court data. Already started. No, it's gonna be.
Is it any of those?
Yeah, it's gonna be.
The top one?
So our active count is 301. Demographics are staying roughly the same as the last meeting. So I'll let you guys look over those. Any questions? Just let me know. And then after that, we have the in and out numbers. They've gone up a little bit this reporting period compared to last. October was a big one. That's mostly due to the correlation between that and the applications themselves. We had an increase of applications in the last 3 months, then as well as the decisions being made. It would be the biggest one. Admissions and applications themselves are all higher. Any question about that? No. Then the application demographics, those are also roughly the same. Sorry, it's so hard to see the colors in there. Oh, there it is. Messing up. And that is for the dreams courts.
Somebody say something.
I didn't know if you're reading the.
I'm curious, are we on the application data part here? Is that what you're-
Yeah, I was saying the demographics must stay the same for the active count, but with the applications, yes, we start.
Okay.
This is just for the health club.
I was just curious, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but when I see September, we had 21 people that their applications were approved. We had 11 people come into the program.
Yeah, I don't.
The difference there, and of course, October, you had 24 people approved, but 24 people came in, but November, we had 22 people approved, but only 10 came in. And so I'm just wondering, where did those, do you have any idea where those people go that were approved but didn't actually make it into the program?
That would be probably a question for
Yeah.
judge.
We have not tracked that. So there was a couple of things that we run into is the individuals, some of them got approved for mental health court, but ended up in co-op upon further review. Some of them got approved and then judge upon further review has asked them to be looked at a little bit closer. So it puts it off a little bit, and then some of them just flat out said they didn't want the program.
They're
So
approved
we've
for
got,
it, just didn't come, okay.
yeah, so we've got, but we haven't tracked it to that as far as, if they get approved. I mean, we know who's coming in, but we haven't looked to see, okay, we approved these individuals, but they haven't, where did they actually land? So,
Okay.
Are we still seeing backups with providers? I know before we had people
Yeah.
waiting in custody because there were no providers available to take them because of ODMH funding or funding. Are we still seeing that?
yes, we're still seeing that with mental health court only having 3 providers. A couple of them go on a, like, hey, we can only do 1 in, 1 out. And some of them just stop for the whole month of taking anybody. So it puts the others on, makes it a little bit more challenging to get them all put in. So on those that are taking a while, it is looking like that's where we've looked for alternative programs and to see if this is the actual right fit. But I feel that with the changeovers made in the DA's office on getting it all under one centralized person, we'll be able to see a faster turnaround time and on the applications and be able to really start tracking, okay, where are they going if they're not coming to us, or are they just sitting in jail?
Yep, and our team has, Commissioner, our team, we've been having internal conversations, and I think it's appropriate to just about what is, a treatment court is not an infinite resource, so it's like, what is our program capacity around, and mental health court is also, it's been a concern of mine that we've really never actually sit down, and maybe somebody has, but it's not been reported about what is, if we were to be following best practice standards, what we think our program capacity is. So if we have, if we have 24 people a month coming into our program, at what point do we need to start looking at, again, having another layer of expansion of our program? Because we're having issues, at least around bottlenecks. We have record numbers of people in the program, and we've been informed we are not following a best practice standard by having this many people in the program. And so at some point, not for today, but we do need to have a broader conversation about what is our program capacity, and then how do we deal with that? So it's just like if we have 301 people in Dream Court, yeah, is that about right?
That is correct as of.
No, I mean, I'm saying is that's the number, but I'm just saying how is that number compared to what our capacity is? My view is that we're over capacity for the judicial resources that we have, but we need to actually quantify that so that way we can recognize and possibly agree that we need to add judicial resources. Is my concern. We're really at it. My view is an unsustainable pace.
Yes, the next part of this would be the finance part for Dreams Court or Mental Court. Strictly operational funds, as we have just now received our contracts, not only for the 1284 and 1281 funds, but also 71 as well. So up until now, it's been strictly operational funds. And that is the Dreams Court. Next, we have the drug court data, which, Judge, I think is what you're talking about. We have 341 at the active count in courts just itself. Demographics have stayed roughly the same compared to the last reporting period. The next one is going to be the people in and out, what you're talking about. We had 29 admissions in September, 25 in October, and 8 in November. That would 8 graduates in September, 16 in October, and 8 or 6 in November. Yes, we are. That's being reflected with the application data. We have 63 applications in September alone. Those are formally applied ones, so those are ones that are actually being reviewed by the DA's office. So 63 one of them is 5 weeks compared to what previous month we've had. It did drop in October, November from 35 and down to 24. Approvals in 18 in September, 27 in October, 14 in November. And then with the denials during those months, 23, 45, and 31. I know those numbers don't add up to actual applications because the approval denials could be from months prior as well. It's not just those months. Okay.
So October and November, the applications may be a lot lower just because there is so much higher in September because there was maybe a lot waiting.
No, the applications are going to be directly correlating with the month. It's mostly the approvals and denials. So the 18 and 23 approval and denials could have been applications from July maybe. But also September as well. Because it's not like a one-day turnaround for application to be. But those are the ones that have come in this year.
And we're also on the applications in, but we also don't formally apply them until we have that jail screener or the offender screening. So with that, we have two individuals that do the in custody ones and one person that's out of custody. So if one of those two are out on PTO, which I believe in October, we have one screener out. So that's going to throw our numbers off as far as applications as well of what's formally applied. Just because there's only two of them that can do it, so our capacity to screen in the week goes down. So that'll have an impact also on just getting them formally applied.
And so going from 60 to 20, that may have a lot to do with more people are applied, but they're just waiting on them.
Yeah, because this is formally applied, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be formally applied. So that means that we handed it off to the DA's office and said, here's the application. So anytime we have where individuals don't get pulled to get screened, or we have a screener that's out, like this week, we have one screener that's at the Momentum Conference, so that left one screener to do the in custody one. So our capacity for screenings, or their capacity, went down. So that will create kind of a lag time in there. And then luckily with the flow of what the seasonality, we don't have them locked up or being applied right now, just because of everybody being off for the holidays. So it kind of balances out, but we will see that on some of the months on what we can formally get applied because we're waiting for those screenings.
And the application demographics are also roughly the same as the last one. So if you have any questions for that, I'll move on to the finances as well. Part of the DUI course.
And we're looking at under approval and denials. I know the mail denials, the one demographic is really far out there. Do we know why, the reason for all the denials?
It would take a long time when you go through each individual one, but off the top of my head, mostly I'm seeing just the danger to others. That's a big one. Probably the second largest would be somebody not screened high enough. There's just other options for them that wouldn't be as restricted. So there's like the two biggest, but mostly danger to others.
Anybody have any other questions?
On the DUI courts, active count there is 105, which is slightly up from the last reporting period. Demographics are still staying roughly the same for the active participants. There's a lot less applications for DUI courts, so the numbers are a lot lower. So our ins and outs, we've had 10 that got admitted in September, 3 in October, and 0 in November. And then we had 6 graduates in September, 11 in October, 1 in November. And then 1 revoked in September, 5 in October, 0 in November, and then 1 person. With the application data, we see 6 in September, 5 in October, 1 in November, 1 approval in September, 2 in October, 2 denials in October or September, 6 in October, and 4 in November. The knowledge for the progress is in the like what stage of others for straight high up. Then on to the demographics. They are also the application demographics are correlating with the last employment period. Same with the approval. If there are no questions about that, I'll move on to the expenses, which is just going to be strictly operational functions for us. Let's see.
Looks like
Good
no
to go.
questions.
Thank you guys.
And just so everyone knows, I think last time Porter and I had discussed, I said discussion of possible action regarding an update for treatment boards. We were talking about putting them all together. So technically we just did number 4, 5, and 6. They were originally listed out separately as drug and DUI court, dreams court, and the budget reports, but we just kind of combined them all under number 30. So we have done all of those. And then discussion of possible action regarding number 8, discussion of possible action regarding the Veterans Treatment Court statistical report. Do we have anyone here from Veterans Court?
I'm covered now. Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Kyle told me to just ask you if there was any questions about the data. I mean, I kind of think it speaks for itself. I will tell you that one of the things I thought that beared mentioning was we've had sometimes we have people applied to Veterans Court who are not veterans. So it's usually a mental health issue. We've had that happen a little bit frequently. Well, I should say in one case we're still not sure whether the person is a veteran or not, but that person thinks they are. It's not that they're necessarily lying, that are mentally unstable, and so in those two cases, 2 of those cases they were comped. So at that point, it's not a decision. That's the other thing. It's not a decision on the merits. It's they can reapply once competent. So, because the person that does all these applications, you have questions, is me. So,
Do you have an active count on the veterans? There's an active count on there?
yeah, and
You did that for her.
Okay. Last I heard is around 50.
that's about
Roughly 50 right
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
Last time I checked was 48, but I think they played through the people, so.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a shift in the mental health numbers. To be honest with you, now that I'm doing the applications for co-op and mental health court, which is as recently as a week ago. So I think you'll see a shift in that. I'm in co-op now, all the meetings, and there is, I think, I'm gonna say this. We're gonna kind of clean up who's where. There's some people in co-op that I think would have been more appropriate for mental health court based on the history, and then there's people in mental health court that need to be co-op would have been a better fit for them. So we're kind of figuring that out.
Anybody have any questions on that? And then number 9, the discussion of possible action regarding the Veterans Treatment Court budget report.
I'm just curious if just make sure our funding is secure. So I know we're running out for grants out the Veterans Treatment Court. And I also know that some of our new federal guidelines are cutting back on a lot of grants as far as the things that used to be available are under the current administration not available anymore. So I'm just curious about our funding stream for Veterans Treatment Court if we know.
I will say on the Veterans Treatment Court, I think that is the one where we do not use a lot of it, and so there is so much left over.
Yes.
And so we are doing great on money. I think we need to find a way to use more, get more people in the program because the funding is there in that category. So
it was a 4-year grant where the DA's office is 2 into that 4. So on the reoccurring risks that Kyle talks about is what does that look like going forward? Like whenever we're past that grant cycle, like how do we sustain it? So I've had conversations with Kyle and Cindy about getting together what the bare minimum numbers are so that we can start exploring options and what that looks like. So we're not waiting to the actual year 3.5 and just be like, okay, now what do we do? So they've started working on, okay, yes, the BJA grant that they're working on had a lot of stuff in it, but what is the bare minimum that we need so that we can start planning and looking for that? So there are some conversations, and it was prior to Jim taking over everything that I had with them just to start looking to see. Right now, there's no indication that it is or isn't going to be, just the political environment is, and it's probably not going to be like an extension of that, but we're sorting out, and Cindy's looking to see what other options we have.
Right. So in summary, we got about 2 years funding left.
Right.
We got to start looking for.
Yeah, unless they let us extend out, unless they give us some type of extension on that. Since we
Unspent money, they might give us
Yeah.
beyond that. We got to research if that's a possibility.
Yeah, Cindy's looking into all that. And part of the issue is also with that is that they have 2 different, during this cycle, they've changed over their grant manager that's handling that twice. So she's had to reestablish the relationship, and then there was a period where nobody was answering any of the questions on that. They were reimbursing everything that was submitted, but they just weren't there to answer the questions like, hey, can we modify this? We need to make changes. How do we change in the categories? We want to report this out. What does it look like for extensions and everything? So.
Is this 100% on the grant, or are we still getting some money from the Department of Health? It's like the monthly,
So their numbers get factored into the drug DUI court numbers, but the way that it's calculated, since they only have 48 participants, it's just a very, very small, and it's hard to get ODMH to actually explain, is it like, how would I calculate that amount? Like to say, okay, what are the 48 people if I were to take out that money? As you see, the 1284 account, the mental health court, it had no funding coming in. Because remember, last year we were a test county for where they just lumped all our money together into treatment court so that we weren't divided into where we could spend it. Previously, it was like if I could have a ton of money in mental health court, but I could only spend it in mental health court. So now we've got it all in one umbrella. So you'll see that the drug court 1281 account will increase, but that's where that's going, is that they get a very small amount, but not been able to get anybody to say, okay, what's the equation to extract that so that I can see what we actually have.
So they should be moved over to mental health, to Veterans Court. That money should be allocated over there.
Yeah, but it's not going to cover it's not going to be enough to cover even Kyle's salary, much less anything else. Okay. So just based on the overall number and the amount that everybody else has for participants, so we could extract like pro rata or just basically say, hey, based on participant count, this is how it divides out, but it's probably not even going to be enough to cover Kyle's salary. So then you get into the whole drug testing and all of that. Yeah. So that's where I asked them why we had that conversation about like, hey, what does future funding look like? How are we? So we started those just so we can get there, but that's.
Yeah, we might have to get creative here next year.
Yeah.
Keep this thing going.
Yeah, we have a couple of ideas that are untapped so far, but we have to get that number before we can start really looking at it.
Does anybody have any other questions? Any citizen participation? Any board comments?
I got board comments.
Okay.
So I think I'm starting my 9th year being a treatment court judge, and of course I'm learning a lot about all of this, and it's a constant learning environment. And we are embarking on probably the most significant shift in the model that I've seen certainly in the 9 years I've been here, but I think probably maybe possibly even the history of the program. There's, we don't make up drug courts. We follow a model that's treated by the National Drug Court Institute. Now it's called All Rise. And of course, and that gets adopted by Oklahoma Department of Health. They say, here's a guideline we encourage you guys to follow because these are considered best practices. They work better, they're more efficient. And the overall, for a long time, we've been moving people through the program based on sober days. How many sober days do you have? You missed your drug test, you started your sober days. Time in the program, how much time have you had in each phase? If you got the right number of time, right number of sober days, you got a job, you got your GED, you get to graduate. What they're saying is you shouldn't do that anymore. Really, you need an individualized assessment, and progress is made in the program by how you progress through your recovery capital phases. So really, once you've got some stable housing, and once you've got you're clinically stable, and once then you can phase up based on different measures, and it's not really associated with number of sober days or just weeks in the program. It's actually progress in the program, which is a beautiful thing. It's really probably how it ought to be. I'm optimistic about it. The dilemma that we're facing is to fully implement this. It just takes a lot more time. We're doing time in staffing, more time with the participants, and more time in court to do that. So it just is. It's a concern for me because we've already been given guidance that we're over capacity. They recommend 250 participants per judge. We've got more than that. And now what we need to really do is do a deeper inquiry in everybody. So we just, as we go forward, we are going to make these changes and figure out how to implement them to the program. But I just anticipate that we're going to run into some issues of just what I think is what we call program capacity. How many hours do you have in a day? How many people can you see? And can you do that by following these best practice standards? And of course, then you get the other side of that. We don't have to do it, but then you get the dilemmas where if you choose not to follow best practice standards, it's a little bit, if you were in the medical profession, they would call that malpractice and they would sue the hell out of you. You're not following the standard of care. So it's a little bit of a dilemma. It may end up, impacting jail numbers. If we just, it's things I'm concerned about. And I think I want to make you aware of it. So that the next time we have a meeting, there may be more comment around this issue. Is these new standards that we're been training on, implementing. We've not implemented it yet, so we may learn more as we go along. But it's we're just at a very interesting time. So that's all I think. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, any new business?
Good turn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.